The day after I gave birth, I discovered a suicide note from my husband next to my pillow. The shock was so great, especially in my postpartum state, that my mind went blank. Later, I discovered my husband's shoes at a wedding he wasn't supposed to be at, and 5 years later I found him alive, smiling in a tux. Please forgive someone like me. Goodbye. The edge of a cliff, which was thought to be proof of his suicide. After that, I was barely making ends meet while living with my daughter Alice. Before I knew it, 5 years had gone by, and I found comfort in Alice's bright, expanding smile. However, when I went to my friend's wedding, something startling occurred. My husband, wearing a tuxedo, stood next to the bride and had the same smile as Alice. He was supposed to have thrown himself into the sea, so why was he here? 5 years ago, at the age of 35, I was working as a nail technician with regular clients, hoping to open my own shop someday. I worked hard and saved money, worried about my focus on work and the fact that I didn't have a boyfriend. Sarah, a friend from high school with whom I had a complicated relationship, invited me to a mixer. Emily, it's great that you're dedicated to your work, that you haven't given up on marriage or having kids, right? If not, you've got to seek out some encounters, she said. Encouraged by Sarah, I accepted, thinking it might be a good change. That choice drastically changed my life. I met Michael Thompson, a 38-year-old businessman, at the mixer, and we hit it off right away. We were both in our late 30s and were dating with the goal of getting married within 6 months when I found out I was pregnant. Michael, I think I'm pregnant, I told him for a brief moment. Thinking I saw her, we decided to get married after the baby was born, and things had calmed down. But first we talked about getting married legally and moving in together. However, during the move, my morning sickness got worse, and there were days when I couldn't get out of bed. We should get married sooner, so just sign the marriage application, and I'll submit it. He looked surprised, but he quickly smiled and hugged me. Michael asked me if I wanted to go with him to the clerk's office. I said, "Don't worry, just rest for the baby." He assured me that I was always surrounded by his kindness, but I had a worry. My parents, who lived in the country, were worried about how I looked because of their jobs, and they had been pressuring me about getting married. I had stopped talking to them for a while because I couldn't withstand their pressure. When we announced the shotgun wedding, I expected them to look at me disapprovingly once more, and my father yelled, "It's shameful, don't come back home." Even though I had expected this reaction, it still made me feel depressed, and I started missing work and spending more time away from home. Even though I was in the middle of a happy new married life, and we were going to welcome a baby, things hadn't gone as planned, so I spent most days in bed, unable to handle household chores and settling for the bare minimum with meals. "I'm sorry, I couldn't do anything today either," I would say to Michael as the days passed. Sense of urgency. At this rate, I might not be a good wife or mother. Feeling sick, lying in bed, and crying every day was really terrible. But more problems started when Michael began to arrive late and spend less time at home. Additionally, on the day that the rent was due, he failed to pay. We had agreed to divide the rent in half when we first moved in together. Every time I checked, he would say, "Hey, did you forget to transfer money for the rent? What's happening with it?" I asked, "Just wait a bit longer. There's been a lot of drinking and entertainment this month. I'm in a financial pinch." The rent was set up for automatic payment from my account because I had signed the lease for the apartment, but there had not been a single transfer from him. That and postponed the payment until I was essentially paying the rent on my own. As payday drew near, he kept asking me for loans, saying that I couldn't work at the moment and that I wanted to put our savings aside for the future. I explained that I was on leave because of morning sickness and had grudgingly begun using my savings to open a nail salon, but I really wanted to keep that saved up. I'm in a tight spot this month and had an unexpected business dinner at a fancy restaurant. He said that shouldn't those be covered by the company's expenses? I said that it doesn't work that way, and that getting this contract could have a big impact on my promotion. He urged me to do so, saying that it would be easier to support the family if he got promoted and made more money. However, in order to agree, I saw a strange watch on Michael's wrist. "Hey, where did you get that watch?" I asked. "Cool, isn't it? I've been eyeing this watch for a while," he replied, flashing it around like a kid boasting about a treasure. But that's not the point. How much did it cost? I pressed. What's it to you? I bought it with my own money. Stop nagging, he said, snapped even though I had given him money and paid the entire rent. What was he thinking? I couldn't help but snap back. Before spending money on such things, you should have talked to me about it. You're going to be a father. Normally quiet, I suddenly raised my voice. He looked surprised and then awkwardly apologized, saying, I'll be better from now on. After seeing his heartfelt apology, I wondered if after Michael returned home even less frequently as my pregnancy progressed into the late stages. An unexpected circumstance arose during a prenatal checkup. From this point on, the doctor said they diagnosed a threatened preterm labor with about 2 months until the due date. I had a vague sense of unease, but everything would be fine once the baby arrived. Suggested hospitalization to keep the baby in as long as possible. The unexpected turn of events shocked me, but I was determined to protect my unborn child and mentally prepared for a lengthy hospital stay. I found the days of doing nothing but resting dull, and my best friend Sarah, who came to visit frequently, saved me. Worked for a detective firm that specialized in infidelity investigations, and she would make me laugh by telling me amusing anecdotes from her job that were within the parameters of what she was allowed to share. So cheating's always found, huh? I said, that's right. And when I became silent, Sarah gave me a serious look and said, don't tell me. Although I didn't say that, I ended up telling everyone about the things that had been bothering me, including Michael's frequent suspicious behavior, leaving the house, and Sarah's serious mutter. I thought I knew, but I decided to turn away to be sure. Did you check to see if your marriage application was truly submitted, Sarah? She said, I haven't checked it, but there's no way that could be. And I was taken aback by her sudden statement. I had never harbored such doubts. Some men do that, and I'm not sure about Michael, but it's better to check. I was undecided, torn between wanting to allay my uneasy thoughts and feeling it was wrong to doubt my husband. When Sarah got up and I wrote the required paperwork for a proxy application, and she promptly left with her bag. It's okay. The marriage application must have been submitted. Just confirming that will ease my mind, I told myself while waiting for Sarah. An administrative proxy can check it, so I'll go to the clerk's office right now to find out for you. Returned within an hour and gave me my family register, but there was no evidence that I was married to Michael. I was shocked, so I thought, why don't I ask him directly? She advised me to do so when he went to the maternity ward. When Michael came the following day, he was grinning as usual, despite my mixed feelings, and I knew I had to make amends for our, hey, did you really send in the marriage application, child? I questioned, and his face instantly changed color. He then fell silent, as if he was thinking deeply. After a while, he started talking, saying, to tell you the truth, I wanted to submit it with you. So I decided not to go through with it. I went to the clerk's office but changed my mind, thinking of your condition would undoubtedly get better shortly. Then you should have just told me that at the time, I replied. I know, but a lot of things happened after that. I was unable to pay my rent because of some financial issues, and I felt unworthy of becoming a father, so I wanted to wait until this issue was resolved before I'm sorry for making you anxious, especially with our child on the way, he said with a dejected expression, and I was unable to respond. He started to cry, and I could only pat his back. I had no idea that he was going through such a difficult time in silence as his wife, and I needed to support him. After that, Michael hardly ever came to see me and stopped answering my messages. Despite everything, I decided to wait and not press the issue because I thought he might be too embarrassed and needed space. At midnight on the day of delivery, I began having contractions, and by morning our daughter was born, healthy and weighing more than 6 pounds and 9 ounces. I was able to get in touch with Michael, and he arrived, but he seemed aloof and refused to look at me, which disturbed me. But after a difficult night, and witnessing the evidence of overcoming excruciating pain, I experienced such a profound sense of joy that everything else vanished as I held my tiny, defenseless child. I was overcome with emotion and tears of joy, saying, I'm so glad you were born safely. Michael held Alice with his face was complicated. And the day after giving birth, I discovered a suicide note from my husband next to my pillow to Emily. You may be shocked by the unexpected letter, but these are my genuine feelings. It started with his anguished sobs, explaining that he had been duped, lost all of our savings, and was being pursued by debt collectors because of our impending after giving birth. I hurried to the police because Michael's shoes were discovered at a famous cliff, which was thought to be proof that he had jumped into the sea. He said, "If I continue to live, I'll just be a burden. For this reason, I intend to jump off a famous cliff known for suicides. Please forgive me. Goodbye." Despite a search, his body was never located, and his whereabouts were unknown. I filed a missing persons report, holding on to the hope that he would return someday. Before I knew it, 5 years had gone by, and all I could do was struggle to raise Alice. Fortunately, my parents came to visit when I told them about the birth of my daughter, reconciled thanks to my parents' efforts on behalf of their firstborn granddaughter Alice. I was able to make ends meet as a single mother while juggling work and childcare in order to fulfill my dream of starting my own store. Sarah was a huge support system, often coming to visit and taking Alice and me out for fun and shopping. Later, I received an invitation from a friend from high school named Olivia Johnson. Olivia and I were always together. After high school, Olivia's daughter moved to Japan for her parents' business, and we lost contact. She later returned to the United States, and we were shocked to receive an invitation to her wedding reception. Olivia is getting married, and I wonder who the lucky guy is. Sarah called me with excitement, but I had no idea. Perhaps she met someone we speculated that he might be from Japan, or perhaps he is a corporate heir. We were both excited to see our friend again after a long absence. On the wedding day, the lavish decor and venue were evidence that Olivia was a CEO's daughter. I muttered to myself that Michael had previously worked for a company that was part of the Johnson Group, as the lights went down and music began to play. When the doors slowly opened and I saw Olivia, who hadn't changed much, my heart stopped when I saw the groom standing next to her. Surprisingly, Michael was my husband, who should have been standing next to Olivia. Her smile brightened the surroundings like cheerful spring sunshine, making flowers bloom and reminding me of old times. The day after Alice was born, he vanished by plunging into the sea. Why was he here? And why was he with Olivia? I never thought we would be reunited in these circumstances. And when I saw him in a tuxedo, smiling just like before, I was confused. Why in the world did I think Sarah next to me spoke up? Wasn't that Michael? I was thinking the same thing. He smiled, and the left corner of his mouth lifted slightly. "I'm positive it's him," I said, adding that if even Sarah, who works for a detective agency, was persuaded, then my husband must be the cause of this. He was supposed to have jumped into the sea. If that suicide note was a lie, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, Sarah said, eager to confront him right away and find out the truth about the man who had fled, leaving our newborn daughter and me behind. I chose to keep it a secret for the time being, so as not to spoil my friend's wedding. I whispered to Sarah, who appeared excited to find out, "I have a favor to ask." "What is it?" "Anything," she answered. "I would like to know what Michael has been up to over the past 5 years. Could you please help me?" Gave me a smile and said, "Of course, I would have looked into it even if you hadn't asked. I'm counting on you." The very next day, we started investigating Michael. Sarah even took time off work to begin following him. As we learned more, we discovered a startling fact. "I can't believe Michael was such a person," I said, and it hit me with such a wave of shock that I nearly broke down. "I know it's shocking, but you're not going to let this slide now that you know everything, are you?" Sarah asked. "Of course not. There's no way I'd let this slide." To which I replied that we had made the decision to take action against Michael. A few days later, we went to a party where everyone was introduced to Michael, Olivia's husband. We had received the invitations through a specific connection, and I searched the large venue for Michael, spotted him in the middle of a crowd. "Emily, there he is. What do we do? He's surrounded by so many people," Sarah said. "Well, we have no choice but to confront him head-on," I said. "Wait a second, Emily," I said, not even listening to her restraint. I took a step closer to him, my heels clacking as I went, and as I entered Michael's line of sight, his shocked face froze. I was grinning when I caught Olivia's attention. "Thank you for coming today, Emily," she said. "You're welcome, Michael. It's been a long time since I last saw you." I smiled at him, and his face was smiling until it suddenly twisted. "Michael, why are you here? Shouldn't you have jumped off a cliff?" Olivia asked, pretending to be surprised. You know, Emily, Michael. The sudden turn of events caused a stir, and Michael started to panic visibly. Olivia, you might not believe this, but listen, this man, Michael, was supposed to be my husband up until 5 years ago, I said as Olivia grasped Michael's chest and shook him violently, asking, What does it mean, Michael? He was looking confused, and his eyes were rolling. I told everyone what had happened 5 years ago, without holding anything back, including how he vanished the day after I gave birth to our child, leaving a suicide note behind before allegedly jumping off a cliff. Ever since, I've been living life to the fullest. The room's murmur subsided, and I was able to tell everyone. I stepped in front of him and pointed out, You left us because you wanted to marry Olivia, but if Michael is still alive and well, the suicide note was merely for show. Olivia scowled at Michael as he avoided my eyes, becoming pale, and speculations about why he would go that far began to circulate among the audience. So you were dating both of them? Michael, pale as a ghost, desperately sought a way out, but when Olivia's father arrived, he sat down and cradled his head, and I proceeded to reveal his secrets. It also appears that you have debts from gambling since you were with me, totaling more than $50,000. At the same time, we became afraid of the responsibility when I became pregnant and fled. Olivia confronted him, and I had never heard of such a thing. Michael became anxious, and I was about to tell him that I was going to pay it all back. I said that I had a plan to marry Olivia and become a CEO. When I accused him, he fell silent and gave me a stern look. It appears that you got drunk and boasted to people at a bar about playing both sides and possibly even becoming a CEO if things went wrong. I said, Sarah, the detective had gathered these testimonies that I couldn't have found on my own. I boldly thrust the investigation report under his nose, and he grabbed it and began tearing it up as if he didn't care. You don't think you can get away with this scot-free? It was a mistake to get involved with you. I'm going to be calling a lawyer for a divorce and child support, so be ready. You can go wherever you want, but when you try to run this time, you won't be able to get away. I told him that this wasn't supposed to happen, because everything was going so well. He muttered, hitting the floor, I got pregnant, and he spat out his plan, and he looked like he was about to jump on me any second. That's my line. I can't trust you anymore, Olivia said, cautiously approaching him while clenching his fist in irritation. No, hold on. This is all a lie from her. Michael begged Olivia, but she made a solid decision. Sarah and I had already visited with Olivia and given her the facts, so she had issued us today's invitation. And when Olivia shook Michael's hand, she stood next to Sarah and me, and gave him a chilly look. Come on, Olivia. Think it over, she said. Michael sobbed and apologized to her, but he eventually calmed down after receiving a reprimand from her father. In addition, Michael, who was employed at Olivia's company, was sacked by the CEO himself and lost Emily. You are the reason I was unable to become the CEO. This is all on you, he yelled. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I'm also a CEO's daughter, I inquired. He appeared completely perplexed by this unexpected disclosure, which was that my father also owned a business and intended to transfer it to me or my future spouse, which is why my parents kept encouraging me to marry you, saying that it would look bad to others and that I had become distant from them because I became pregnant too soon and never found the right time to tell Michael. However, it worked out well, and if I had married you, I could have become a CEO. Michael said, Let's start over, taking my hand and kneeling. A child needs a father, right? Following Olivia and Michael's divorce, Olivia's father became enraged and vowed to seek alimony by any means necessary. I also filed for alimony and said, I never want someone like you as a father. I don't ever want to see your face again. Michael was shocked and stunned by my outright rejection and left him behind. Olivia, Sarah, and I left the venue together. Michael ended up with almost $150,000 in debt after receiving child support from a lawyer, working non-stop and looking exhausted. Meanwhile, I've been enjoying life, going to lunch with Olivia and Sarah, and at 40 I've recently realized my ambition of owning my own nail salon. Alice, age 5, has begun displaying fascination with nail art and nail salons. Play games with me when you see my. I feel the everlasting smiles of my lovely daughter. The delight of living as a calmness descends upon my